Wall Street rallies. The Nasdaq sees its fourth straight day of gains ahead of the release of December CPI data later today. Asian markets are largely higher with the exception of the Nikkei. The SGX Nifty indicates a positive start for the Indian market. Hopes of a global economic recovery and expectations of higher demand as China reopens see Brent crude surge over 3% to nearly $83 a barrel. Concern over the impact of sanctions on Russian oil also drives prices higher. CPI for the month of December is expected to come in at 5.84% versus the 5.88% in November as food inflation remains mostly unchanged. IIP for November is seen higher at 2.7% compared to a 4% decline in the previous month on the back of strong growth in core industries. And Infosys is expected to report dollar revenue growth of about 1.5% in the third quarter while maintaining revenue guidance. HCL Tech's revenue growth is seen at 3.5% in what is a seasonally strong quarter for the company. Tata Motors unveils 12 cars, including 5 electric models, on day one of the Auto Expo. Also showcases 14 trucks, including a hydrogen fuel cell-powered carrier. Chairman N. Chandra tells CNBC-TV18 that Tata Motors will continue to invest in technology and target every price range with EV offerings. Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the top headlines that we're looking at as we get into a fresh day. We are going to start by taking a look at the global markets because once again we saw Wall Street rallying and it was quite a broad-based rally across the US markets. We're now seeing Asia open largely higher, but the gains are not nearly as much as what came through on Wall Street. What's doing the best is the Hong Kong market right now. It's around 0.5% higher, so no big move coming through there, around 100 points higher on the Hang Seng. Taiwan is seeing a gain of around 0.2%. And for most of the Asian markets, you are seeing a start in the green, but just mildly in the green. So it's no big move coming through from Asia. The only one which is in the red is the Japanese market. That is the Nikkei index, very marginally in the red, but it is in negative territory right now. The SGX Nifty will also come up for you. And it is indicating after the kind of very volatile session that we had yesterday that we will get a start at least which is higher, around 45 points higher is what we have on the SGX Nifty. So that's what's going on across the Asian markets. Let's also talk about the US now. Wall Street ended yesterday's trading session higher. So the Dow Jones finished with a 270-point bump up. The S&P 500 closed over 1% in the green. And the tech-heavy Nasdaq, it rallied for its fourth straight day and ended 2% higher. So that's what's happening across the U.S. markets. But let's now talk about the big cue that markets are watching this week. The U.S. CPI number for December will come through today. So inflation concerns remain top of mind for investors as the Fed continues to raise rates. CNBC's Steve Leisman filed this report for us on what we can really expect from the CPI data.
Some new data we have suggests tomorrow's inflation report from the government could be soft, with a possible negative headline number, and it would join other private sector data we've been following and suggesting some easing in inflation. The State Street Price Stats Inflation Index, it's called from prices on the web, falling 0.3% month to month for one of its biggest drops since the pandemic. Not surprisingly, it was driven by a sharp decline in fuel prices, along with apparel as well. Other sectors like food, they look like they were bouncing back towards the end of the month from a soft November. But the monthly decline pushing the year-over-year rate down to 3.9% from a high of about 6% in the summer. It's been running below the CPI, you can see there year-over-year, but generally tracks in the direction of it. No guarantee, of course, the CPI tomorrow will follow this data. But it's not the only inflation indicator trending down. We've been looking at these price indices inside a bunch of the survey data. The ISM services price index down 17 points from its peak in April 2022. ISM manufacturing price index down 53 points, and the NFIB percentage of respondents who are raising prices down 30 points from the peak in November 2021. Falling inflation data could explain why the market isn't following the Fed. Barry Knapp from Ironside Macro says it's because Fed Chair Jay Powell's case, the one that says rates need to rise because of rising inflation in core services. Knapp says that is falling apart. He sent me this data, the measure on which Powell focuses on. Looked at on a 3-month annualized basis, it's fallen every month since peaking in June at 12% and now stands at just 3.17%. The result is the market pushes rates lower because it has to believe at this point the Fed's done enough and inflation is easing. Fed officials, they kind of acknowledge the progress, but they've stuck to their hawkish comments about higher for longer when it comes to the outlook for rates.
All right, Steve, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those expectations. That data will be out today, so that is a big cue that we're watching out for. But let's also bring you some important opinion on the Fed's tightening cycle. This is from Phil Camporel of JP Morgan Asset Management.
The Fed last year did their quickest monetary tightening that they have ever done. They've moved by 450 before, but they've never done it that quickly. So there still remains uncertainty about what that lagged effect of policy does. We think they're close to wrapping it up, that goodness. And I'm going to convince you that they're not going to move by 450 basis points this year.
All right, that is some interesting opinion coming through, but let's now talk about all of the cues that you should track as we move into this fresh trading session. We have our research team here with the trade setup. Ekta, Mangalam, Bahishta are all here to fill you in with everything that you should track today. Ekta, let me come to you first. We saw a hugely volatile session yesterday. How's it looking this morning?
Thanks for that. Well, yes, it has been volatile and choppy for the past couple of trading sessions for our markets. So yesterday, the markets did close flat following what was a range-bound session. The Sensex fell marginally, the Nifty as well, but the Nifty Bank did rather well. So FII's net sold around 3,208 crores in yesterday's trading session, and DII's net bought significantly as well. So that trend from FIIs in terms of selling continues. Now, the rupee, which was positive, clocked the biggest single-digit gain that we've seen in 2 months. Globally, US markets ended higher, Asia ended higher. Oil has gained around 2 to 3% overnight on global economic optimism, so do watch out for that. And the SGX is positive as well. You've been talking about it. There is caution likely ahead of the inflation data. So the US inflation for December is estimated to come in at around 6.5%, which would be lower than that 7.1% mark in the month of November and the peak of over 9% that we've seen in the middle of 2022. India inflation estimated this evening as well, estimated to come in at around 5.84%, which compares to around 5.88% in the previous month. Q3 numbers from the likes of Infosys, HCL Tech, so we will be watching out for. Also watch out for metal stocks because copper, aluminium are at 6-month highs. So that would be another key trend to watch out for our markets.
All right, Ekta, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues. But let's now also talk about the individual stocks that you should have on your radar today. Vahishta is here with that entire list. Vahishta, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Pavitra. Let me start off with Reliance, wherein Jio launches 5G services in various cities of Tamil Nadu and has invested over 40,000 crores for deploying 5G network in this state. HUL has completed the acquisition of 51% shareholding of ZV for 264 crores in the first tranche, and with this, ZV Ventures has become a subsidiary of HUL. Moving on to SBI, wherein the central government has extended the term of Mr. Sethi, who's the MD at SBI, for a period of 2 years with effect from the 20th of Jan. IIFL Wealth, a board meeting will be held on the 19th of Jan to consider declaration of interim dividend, stock split or bonus. And the last stock is Route Mobile, which has signed an SMS firewall solution and a connectivity service agreement with a leading mobile network operator in Sri Lanka, and Route Mobile will serve as the exclusive partner of the mobile network operator for a period of 2 years. Back to you.
All right, those are all of the stocks that we should watch for today. Vahishta, thanks a lot for that entire list. Finally, I'm going to hand it over to Mangalam, who's looking at all of the cues from the futures and options space.
Good morning. So yesterday was an extremely volatile session, and towards the end of the session we had just a 17-point dip to show that for. Well, it was a tug of war between FIIs and DIIs. The FIIs ramped up their cash selling, almost 3,200 odd crores, which is the largest that we've seen in the last few months. The DIIs, however, were bought about 2,400 crores, so that meant that net flows of close to 600 crores were out of the system. In index futures, there was unwinding on both longs as well as the short side. The FII long exposure still stands at 40%, with 60% of their positions being on the short side. The important data point that came in was a net sell of 1,200 crores in index options, and that's important because it's ahead of weekly options expiry. And out there, the FIIs unwound 13,000 long calls and bought 32,000 puts. So maybe they're protecting themselves for a potential downside. However, what will give bulls some happiness is the fact that we saw unwinding in short calls to the tune of 24,000 contracts, and importantly, we saw 50,000 puts being written. So that's telling you there is support at lower levels. What are the options which are active? 17,900 call is extremely active ahead of the weekly options expiry today. We saw an addition of 24 lakh shares out there for a premium of 63 odd rupees. So that's telling you that levels closer to that 18,000 mark might face some resistance. But here's where the support comes in. 17,800 put. That's seen a writing of close to around, 26 lakh shares for a premium of 24 odd rupees. These writers are eyeing a range of 1775 at the lower end to around 1795 at the upper end itself. The Nifty December low at 17774 is important to watch out for at the lower level.
All right, we will watch out for those levels and let's see how we move. Right now, we are getting a positive start. That's what the SGX is indicating. So let's see how the rest of the trading session pans out. Ekta, Mangalam, Vaishta, thank you very much for joining us. But with that, it's time for a short break on the show. Hey guys, welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and like we told you, it is a day of big IT earnings. We'll have Infosys, which is going to report its third quarter numbers, and also HCL Tech. So let's bring you what the street is expecting. Reema is joining us now. Reema, what should we expect from Infosys this time around?
Thanks so much for that. So when it comes to Infosys, we're looking at a dollar revenue growth of 1.5%, constant currency growth of 1.2%, which will be less than what TCS reported at 2.2%. After 12 quarters of superior growth, this time Infy's growth is expected to be less than that of TCS. EBIT margin expansion is likely to continue. This quarter, we're expecting it at 21.9%, aided by the rupee depreciation, and that's going to drive a profit jump of close to about 8%. The street does not expect any change in its FY23 guidance, which stands at a revenue growth of 15 to 16% and EBIT margins of 21 to 22%. The company has already called out some slowness in mortgage and retail in Q1, and in Q2 they also indicated some softness in high-tech and telecom. We're going to watch for more clarity on what the demand picture is going to look like, and will the TCV, the deal wins, be lower on a quarter-on-quarter basis, something Infosys had also spoken about. Valuations of Infosys currently at 21.5 times, lower than peak valuation multiples of 28 times, but higher than its historical average levels of close to about 18 times. That's the expectation when it comes to Infosys.
All right, Reema, thanks a lot for getting us all of those expectations. Remember, you can catch the management's post-earnings conference call at 4:30 p.m. today only on CNBC-TV18. But Reema, hold on. We also have HCL Tech, which will be reporting third quarter numbers later today. So what should we expect from there?
HCL Tech is likely to report the best growth rates in the large cap pairs at 3.5% because this is a seasonally strong quarter for their products business. But remember, HCL Tech was the one who had flagged off a weak Q3 because of higher furloughs. EBIT margins are likely to expand like we've seen with the rest of the IT pack, and the expectation 18.7% is the EBIT margin poll, and profits up close to about 10.5%. Again, don't expect any change in HCL Tech's FY23 guidance because only in the month of December at its analyst day had the company tweaked its guidance. They had said that FY23 constant currency revenue growth will be at the lower end of their guided range of 13.5 to 14.5%. So considering just 1 month back, the company had come out with that update, don't expect any change. Even margins are likely to be maintained between 18 to 19%, something which the company had reiterated in December. We're going to be watching for the Q3 furloughs. This is something the company had flagged off. They had spoken about higher furloughs in BFSI, high-tech, telecom vertical. Does this extend into Q4? What is the demand outlook looking like? The stock is down nearly 18% in the last 1 year and trades at about 18.5 times forward multiple, which compares with 14x prior to COVID and the 5-year average. Back to you.
All right, Reema, that is everything that we're expecting from HCL Tech. Thanks for bringing us that. The management of HCL Tech will also brief the media in a post-earnings press conference at 6 p.m. later today. So stay tuned and watch CNBC and you can catch that as well. The other big talking point overnight has really been what's been going on with crude prices. We saw a big near 3% pop on crude prices overnight. So Manisha is here to fill us in with the details. Manisha, almost $83 a barrel now.
Oh, well, yes, above that is how we're trading at this point in time, Pavitra. And this is even as the U.S. inventories for crude surged by 19 million barrels. I mean, this is the third highest weekly gain that we've seen in U.S. crude inventories there. And this is the highest since Feb 2021 as well. That should have been bearish for prices, but that also means that because of the blizzard that we saw in the previous week and many of the oil pipes were frozen, you have more crude oil in hand and lesser crude products in hand, and that clearly has been supportive. Also, the decline in dollar index, which is just about holding 103 right now, has been supportive. The China demand estimates is what the markets are also working with. So all of that clearly has been supportive. And in any case, we were slightly oversold on the chart since we've been trading below $80 for some time. So some buying by the speculators and the allocations and sense of money in crude prices seems to have increased yet again.
Okay, Manisha, thanks a lot for filling us in with all of the details and telling us what's really going on with the oil prices. But with that, we're going to get into a short break on the show. On the other side, Tata Motors unveiled. Welcome back. Now, after a 3-year hiatus, the Auto Expo kicked off in the national capital yesterday, and the theme this year is sustainable mobility. So big players like Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, MG Motor, Ashok Leyland, and several EV players unveiled a range of sleek offerings. Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekaran as well as Noel Tata, chairman of Trent International, were also present as Tata Motors showcased 12 cars, including 5 electric models and 14 trucks, including a hydrogen fuel cell-powered carrier. Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekaran spoke to our colleague Parikshit on the sidelines of the mega event. So let's listen in to that conversation.
Mr. Chandrasekaran, very strong show by Tata Motors here at the Auto Expo. 26 products unveiled across segments. Give us a sense, what does this show about Tata Motors' growth roadmap? Today, you're a strong number 3, growing in a robust manner. How do you see growth from here?
I think both in commercial vehicles and passenger cars, we are driving towards new mobility, and we are investing in a number of technologies. You've seen us launch a number of electric vehicle passenger cars, and also you're seeing the same thing in commercial vehicles. You got to see what we are doing in the fuel cells and hydrogen powered internal combustion engine vehicles. We are looking at urban mobility as well as long distance trucking as far as the commercial vehicle is concerned. As far as the passenger car is concerned, I think we are investing both in ICE technology as well as in electric vehicles. See, we had a lot of product gaps which we have been trying to address. So it's a question of focusing on safety. It's a question of taking a bet on electric mobility. That's a bet we took in 2018, late 18 and 19. And since then, we have only doubled and tripled our efforts. So we are committed. We are also wanting to create cars which are very desirable for the consumer. We have to work on both affordability and on driving pleasure, and on technology. On technology is something that will continue to invest.
So electric vehicles, how you have come up with a SEP 10 lakh electric vehicle car. How will you continue focusing on bringing down costs and any challenges to electric mobility that you see in the country, which probably need to be done away with?
I think we need to do all ranges. It's not only about price range at 10 lakhs. We also have to have higher end models because customers have different choices. There are different segments of customers. So we need to continue to work on batteries. I need to work on new technologies. Currently we are with lithium ion, and we need to look at other technologies as well. So we are working with, let me put it this way, startups and other innovators. And I think this space will evolve. It's too difficult to say exactly at what time frame and when we will be launching different technologies, but we'll continue to evolve.
Does Tata Motors have a clear path to the #1 position in the market?
And we don't talk about position and market share. Our job now, we have a long way to go. Our job is now to continue to produce vehicles which are appreciated by customers and adopted by customers.
Any
so
view?
We've got a long way to go.
All right. So just one final comment on Air India. An unfortunate incident. You've already taken action. Anything that you'd like to tell us?
No, I've already said that as a company and as a group, we fell short in responding to that situation. So we are committed to making steps, whether it is in terms of processes, in terms of other systems, and that we need to correct so that we can handle the situations much better. And more importantly, we can ensure that the customers feel delighted to be with our airlines.
Okay, that is Tata Sons Chairman N. Chandrasekaran talking about Tata Motors' growth plans as well as the recent unfortunate incident on the Air India flight. But another story that we're closely tracking is the Joshimath disaster. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami visited the subsidence-hit Joshimath and announced interim relief of 1.5 lakh rupees, even as residents protest over the compensation. My colleague Santya spoke to Uttarakhand Chief Minister on the continuing construction in the area, as well as the kind of compensation that has been decided on for residents. So let's listen into that.
सर देखिए, जब हम रास्ते में आ रहे थे, कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट्स पे काम चल रहा था। सरकार के ऑर्डर्स थे 7 जनवरी के कि कंस्ट्रक्शन साइट्स पे काम नहीं चलना चाहिए। तो कैसे मॉनिटर नहीं हो रहे हैं और कैसे वायलेट हो रहे हैं वो ऑर्डर्स?
मैं सब देखने के लिए आया हूँ, कहाँ पर क्या कमी है, जो भी कमी है उसको दूर करेंगे।
लोग कह रहे हैं कि जो डिमोलिशन है वो एज पर नॉर्म नहीं हो रहा है, उन्हें किसी तरह का कोई कॉम्पनसेशन के बारे में कोई बातचीत नहीं हो रही है उनके साथ।
तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि कोई डेमोलिशन का कोई भी जो है यहाँ पर ऑर्डर नहीं हुआ है। जो चीज़ें जिसके कारण से लोगों को खतरा हो सकता है और अत्यधिक नुकसान हो सकता है, उस पर कोई निर्णय यहाँ पर लिया गया होगा और हम इसके लिए कमेटी बना रहे हैं और कमेटी जो एक सर्वसम्मति से सब बातों को करेगी, उसी के आधार पर यहाँ का प्लान आगे बढ़ाएगी।
All right, that is the latest coming out of Uttarakhand. We will keep bringing you updates on this story through the day. But with that, we're going to wind down on this edition of Power Breakfast with the news that most Asian markets are higher, led by the Hong Kong market, which has seen a spurt in the past few minutes, over 1% higher there. The SGX Nifty is indicating a 45-point uptick. Thanks for tuning in. Bazaar Morning Call on the other side.